Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Eddie Jennings from EJSLLC.com. This video is another in my practice session series for the Red Hat EX374 exam, Red Hat Certified Specialist in Developing Automation with Ansible Automation Platform. Before I dive in, I want to thank returning subscribers for watching another video, as well as invite anyone, if you haven't subscribed, to click the subscribe button. And I also want to remind everyone that these are my practice sessions in preparation for taking the exam. The goal of these is I'll talk about whatever the objective is and maybe try to do some examples of the objective. And throughout the video and at the end, I'll assess myself, and hopefully I will feel confident with whatever the objective is, meaning that when I get to the exam and there's a task about the objective, I think I'll do well with it. Or I'll get to the end of the video or realize throughout the video that I am not terribly confident with the objective and I need to do some brushing up or fill in some skills gaps or whatever I need to do to prepare. My exam is just under 2 weeks away, so I don't have a lot of time, but that does give me some time to fill a couple of skill gaps if I have them. Hopefully by this point I don't have too many skill gaps because I've been doing preparation for a while with it. All of that being said, these are not to be considered tutorials, nor are they considered or to be considered training materials. It's just me trying to do, or rather sharing a practice session with the hopes of perhaps if you watch this and you're trying to figure out ways that you can practice for the exam, I might give you some ideas about that. I do try to have the information accurate, but I'm learning right along the rest of you. So continuing in the transform data with filters and plugins section, which of all of the objective sections, this is my weakest going into my final 2 weeks, and so it'll be getting a good bit of attention outside of this particular practice session. We're going to look at implementing loops using structures other than simple lists using lookup plugins and filters. So this is actually a pretty interesting one, and I think one that I haven't used much in my day-to-day work with Ansible, and that's something that I've realized with this exam. And I understand kind of the point of doing any certification. It's not that you're necessarily just wanting to review what you do in your day-to-day work, but rather it's trying to expose you to some new stuff that either you might be able to incorporate into your work to do things better, or just generally try to expand your knowledge with. And using these lookups and filters and such is that when I get to the last objective, just about filters, that's something I do fairly often, but lookups and such are relatively new to me just because, especially with loops, I haven't needed to do anything outside of simple lists. But that being said, let's go into my filter test directory where I have a couple of things set up, and you'll recognize some of these files from some previous videos. So a simple loop, that's going over a just standard list. So we're going to make a playbook called loop, and we'll name this testing loops. We'll run it just against one of the hosts. Been picking on AAP node 1. Pick on AAP node 2 today. I don't think I need to become for what I'm going to do, or I might need to do that either way. So actually, let me make a variable here. Call it simple list, and we will have red, green, blue. What we're going to do here is a fairly simple, keep using simple, I need to use a synonym for that, fairly simple task. Make some temp files. We'll use Ansible built-in file. We'll do state touch, path, TMP, item. Usually I would have ownership and all that kind of stuff, but for this I'm not really caring about that. So loop, and we're going to loop this over the simple list variable. So we'll run this. Again, trying to get in the habit of using Ansible Navigator for this particular exam, since it's utilizing the execution environments with Ansible Automation Platform. So we've made our files, and I can just do SSH to ejslab.com ls temp. Oh, it should have key-based authentication, but yes. Oh, I must be using a different account. I can't remember anymore. I'm tired. It's late. So there are 3 files within the ls temp. So good old loop that we all know and love. Not all of the data that you would potentially want to loop over is going to come in the form of a list. For example, let's say that we want to do the same kind of thing here, but instead we want to copy some files over a loop. So what I could do for this, and this is like many examples, just kind of a contrived thing to show this, but we're going to use that file glob lookup, and this should give us what we want here. So I am going to see, let's make us a directory called files, and we're going to echo a couple of things. This is the orange file. This is orange file. I'll just do that. This is brown file. This is purple file. Okay, so we have our 3 files there. And let's go back to our loop, see how well this works. And we'll just keep that var simple list. But now what I want to do is I'm going to change this to the copy module, and the file is going to be, actually just be item, and the destination file, circ. The destination is going to be temp, and we're going to try lookup file glob and see how this works. So lookup Ansible built-in file glob. We're going to look into files star.txt, and let's see what happens. So what in theory, that lookup should give us the path to those files, and then the copy module will copy those to our server. That's what I thought. And because a lookup is not going to give you a list, as far as list that Ansible is expecting. It's going to give you like some comma separated values and such for file glob, but I would need to do query. So this is obviously something that I'll need to do some research with to see how you can, because I think most loops are technically lookup plugins, but maybe I needed to do, it says and filters. So let's try this. I know there's a filter called list that will take data and put it into that type. So let's see if that works with this. Wait, I'm in the wrong playbook. Why am I looking at templates? So loop.yml. Let's see if this works. Otherwise, we'll use query. Well, that's not what I've found that before. So let's just use query, and that way we can get done with this one. Let's see if this works. All right. Oh, I'm connecting as a user called Ansible. That's what I figured. So now let's, not app, but AAP. And there's our files that we copied there. So that's using a query. I'm curious. Ansible navigator doc-t. Yeah. So I think queries are really considered lookups. So perhaps that's the thing. But again, I'll want to do some research about looping, doing more loops with lookup plugins instead of just lists. I I know one thing we can do. This would be interesting. There's a filter that is dict to items, and it will take a dictionary and convert it to items that you can then use in a loop. And some examples I've seen of this just in some of my training is, let's say you have like a list of users and you need the users to have particular attributes and such. So we can try to create something like that. So let me do users.yml. Let's see what we can come up with here. So let's say we have, how do I want to structure this? We're going to call this local users. We can do this with local files. And I'm going to say file name is going to be temp myfile1. And we're going to have owner is going to be root. Group is going to be root. Mode. This might work the way that I want, but we'll see. Call it 075-644. And let's do another dictionary. We'll call this temp myfile2.sh. This time I'm going to have the owner be Ansible, group Ansible, and this mode is going to be 755. And let's say that we want to do temp myfile3, and we're going to say the owner is root, the group is going to be Ansible, and its mode is going to be 640. Okay. And pretty sure there's a lookup that's Ansible built-in dict. So one thing that I have found when I have practiced with some of these lookups and filters is you can use debug to get an idea of how this data is going to look. So let's use our loop again. It's users.yml, and we're first going to use debug, and let's see how this data would look. And we're going to do lookup Ansible built-in dict, and we are looking up, I call that users.yml, even though we're doing files. We're going to call it files.yml. Let's see what happens. Change that to files.yml. So Ansible Navigator, run files.yml. Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm messing up my dictionaries. I realize that. Okay. Dictionary either is going to have key value pair or be a dictionary of dictionaries. So let's do this instead. Yeah, I should have caught that sooner. Okay. Let's see if this works any better. Playbook must be a list of plays. This is not intended to be a playbook. It's intended to be you look up, well, maybe I need to do this. Do vars files. I guess I could see why I would think I'm trying to do a play. Well, yeah, because it's not going to know that I'm trying to do variables there. So we'll do this. I'll have to go back and make a change in the YAML file. My files variable. Let me go into, change that from local files to my files. All right, so let's see what happens now when we try to look at this data. Yeah, I'm a bit perplexed. So what I want to do, see what this looks like without anything. It's probably going to give me the same error. Yeah, why are you thinking this is a list of plays? Or why are you thinking this is a playbook? I'll bet this is something dumb. No, all that looks right. Can make that a list. That shouldn't matter though. Unless that's var files. I'm pretty sure it's vars files, but let's see what happens when I do var files. Maybe that's the thing. This bothers me because I know I've used variable files before. And the file is basically this syntax. All right, let me make another file. Files to, here is my var value. And we'll probably could have just used the same playbook, unless it's explicitly thinking YML is a playbook, which it shouldn't. It should just read the YAML as variables. But let's see what happens. Should be a single variable. Yeah, so I simply have a dictionary of dictionaries. So cat foo.yml, not foo.yml, cat files2.yml, cat files.yml. Maybe having that top level my files is causing the problem. I really am perplexed by this. So I think it kind of goes without saying, this is something that I definitely need to review. Maybe I need to go back and review my understanding of the structure of dictionaries. Probably so. Or maybe it's just I'm late and it's tired, my brain's not functioning, but I'm not quite sure what's going on. So let's try that loop one again. Is that what I did it with? Oh yeah, I need to go back to the lookup. I'm probably misusing this. I guess I could look up the documentation, but I want to try one thing before I do that. No, we got something different. Let's take a look at the documentation real quick. If I can spell. Yeah, it takes dictionaries as input, returns a list. So that one dictionary I had was really kind of like this. Granted, I did not actually specify var. I did not actually specify vars. I just started with users, but this is, it's a file that had that type of data. I was expecting item key, item value name. Yeah, so I would have had a vars file. It would have been looking up my files, and my files had file 1, and it had, well, let's do this. Determined to make this work. Okay, so let's go into loops, and we are, nope, not going to be able to use visual mode for what I want, or at least I don't think I can. All right, need to bring you back a level. All right, that's the right indentation. Fix this. One obvious reason why I need to create more examples and practice this more, and probably do some reading to see where my clear failures of understanding is that on the exam, let's say I have to do something like this. I'm not going to have the time to poke around as much as I am just trying to make something work. Variable not defined. Loop, misspell it. No, I didn't misspell it. My underscore files. Let me just look at the variable my files itself. Oh, I actually don't have to do the curly brace stuff. See if that makes a difference. Probably not. No, it did. Okay, this is what maybe that was the mistake I was making all along. I might have to go back in the video and look. All right, so this is what I expected to see. So you have that dictionary. It creates a list of dictionaries, which you have key and value. And so what would happen if we actually did the deed? We turn this back into this built-in file. And so we would have path. It's ultimately going to be item, and it's going to be value and name. Pretty sure is how this is going to work. The owner would be item because each key is going to be file, and the value will be these key value pairs. Group, the item value group, and then mode, the item value mode. And this is going to become loop, and it's going to be looking that up. Yeah, see, we have key and then value, and then each property of value are those pairs. So we're actually not using the key for this at all. So let's see what happens. Famous last words in IT, right? And it complains. Oh, I know why. Well, I guess I don't need to do that there. Need to do it here. Oh, I know why that failed, because if I'm setting stuff as root, I got to become for this. All right, this should work. Famous last words in IT. Okay, so now we have created a loop with using, you know, this other lookup plugin. There's one thing I want to do with this, and rather I could just do a filter. And this is, I think, something I mentioned earlier in the video. I feel like this video has lasted forever, but it is dict to items. And so we'll do our loop of my files and send that to dict to items. Now we're going to set this state to be absent. And we should get rid of those files. Oh, how nice it is for something to work the first time. So we'll SSH as Ansible to AP node 2 egslab.com. We'll ls temp. And we see that my file 1, 2, and 3 do not exist, which I'm sure they would have existed before. I know there are there's a filter, I think it's called sub-elements, that you can, let's say you have just multi-treed dictionaries and such, you can pull some values out of that, and there is, oh, what is it? I want to think it's join. I think union is for joining lists. That'll be something I try to cover in the next video, but there is one where you can combine dictionaries and make it into a list, I think. So I might do a little bit of research before I do my next practice session video. But this, as far as the exam is concerned, I would consider myself a fail at this point, because I'm having to tinker too much with it. I understand conceptually what's going on, but this goes back to the fact that I don't use these lookup plugins day in and day out, and so they are not nearly as under my fingers as other things are. So if you made it all the way to the end, congratulations. If you found watching my struggles useful, or maybe watching my struggles and pulling out my errors kind of validates what you already know about whatever the topic was, which for this, it was implementing loops with lookup plugins. You might find some use out of that. I do want to thank returning subscribers for watching another video, and invite you to subscribe if you haven't yet. And as always, thank you for your time, and I'll see you the next time.